Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Reasonably Effective podcast. I'm 10 Types, as I was joined by Uncommon Fossil.
Yep. Hello. Glad to be here.
Yep, and this is our second recording because it crashed like 2 minutes in before. So hopefully it works this time. But today we are excited to be taking a look at some cards in expanded format, or actually some of them are banned, but cards from the expanded like card pool that are pretty strong and, in our opinion, interesting. And take a look at what they'd be like in standard card designs that we want to see back in the game, and just kind of take a look at them. And we have a bunch of different cards and like types of cards that we're going to take a look at. But the first type of card we're going to take a look at here today, these are the cards that are, in my opinion, some of the most important, if not the most important cards in the game. Probably not the most important, but pretty high up there. And these are the basic strong Pokemon draw cards. If you're not familiar with these cards, in standard we have Pheasant Dipty EX, which in my opinion is by far the best Pokemon in the game right now. I don't think that's a crazy take that it's the best. Certainly played a lot. And also Squawkabilly EX is the other one. There's like Mew EX, but we're not talking about that. It's not as strong as in terms of draw card. And then in expanded, there are a bunch of them. There is Shaman EX, which is banned. There is Crobat V. There is Dedenne GX. There's Luminion V and Jirachi EX and Tapu Lele GX, which are a little bit different. And there is also Oricorio GX, and there is also Eldegoss V. Eldegoss V, in my opinion, is substantially different enough that it's like not the same category card, but it's kind of close. And there are some others, but those are the ones we're going to talk about here. And I will say one notable difference is that the cards, all of them except for I think uh, or Choreo GX in terms of the expanded ones are all on playabilities from hand, which means Nest Ball would not trigger them, which is a design difference and something we see with Squawkabilly EX, which is ability to design GX, which we will talk about those cards and what they do in a moment, but ultimately they're similar-ish in design, except Squawkabilly EX is not a non-playability, so it works to Nest Ball.
Yeah. So I think the idea is not how good are these cards in expanded format, but these cards, which are good cards in expanded format, how would they be in standard format? Would they be good as they are? Would they need to be tweaks? That's the idea there. And it's interesting what you said that they're all basic Pokemon because they are. I had kind of forgotten about that, but it certainly is for a draw for an engine type Pokemon being a basic. It's a big difference. Obviously, Pidgeot EX is good, but you have to get it set up, so that changes it a lot.
Yeah, there are some evolution engines that are good. In expanded, I actually don't know if they're really strong evolution engines. Pidgeot EX is like pretty good, and yourself plays Pidgeotto, which is like also solid, which is like Dracloak. And Dracloak itself is like good. There's some like the engines in standard right now that are like the full engines of decks are mainly I mean there's like supporter engines, I guess, but then there's the like evolution stage one draw engines, which are like decently common, like Dracloak and Zoroark EX and stuff. But they're not as strong as obviously basic ones, which are on play. But the idea is to have like quicker games as well. And expanded has, I guess, it has faster games. I don't really play expanded. I know there's a lot of control, but the turns in which you're doing stuff, you're doing so much, and you want really big bursts of draw, which is a difference.
Yeah. So I think for both of us, we want to see cards. I imagine that are fair and standard. I think the first card we'll talk about here, just like for the Dene GX, because that for me was when I came into the TCG more, and you as well, was one of the staple cards, super powerful with Dene changeability. You discard your hand, draw 6 cards. Similar to Squawkabilly EX, but some significant difference we'll talk about. And the question isn't how good it partly is it good? We don't want to just make this like the best card in standard format if it was introduced. We want to keep standard format balanced and fair, right? So the Dene GX, like you said, it's an on playability, which Quick Ball was the made ball basic Pokemon ball search at the time rather than Nest Ball, so that worked with it. Squawkabilly EX, they made the change so it wasn't on play, which works with Nest Ball, but they also made a bigger change. It still discards your hand, still draws 6, but you can only use it on your first turn, and you can only use one. You can only per turn. You can only use one Dene change per turn, but you could use the Dene GX subsequent turns to the first turn. So that was a big change for the Dene GX. They made a significant nerf with Squawkabilly EX.
Yeah, and I think Squawkabilly is cool, I guess. I mean, only being able to use it on your first turn means it's obviously a lot worse. It's not just the first turn going first or second. It's either player's first turn. But if you have like a mostly dead hand, Dedenne can essentially always bail you out of that, ignoring the nest ball thing. Um, and Squawk really can't because if it's past the first turn, it's not getting you out of there. So if you turn two top deck into nest ball, you're not getting bailed out of that hand. I mean, again, you're not with Dedenne, but like the idea, if you top deck like Ultra Ball, you would be getting bailed out of that. Um, so I do like Dedenne GX. I think it's a cool card. There's some other stuff going on. We're gonna kind of ignore like the GX attack and stuff. But I think Dedenne is a cool card. I will mention its like HP is low. Most of these Pokemon have low HP. Not all of them have low HP, but Dedenne did, and that is meaningful here as well. I do want to mention that. Also, a lot of them are weak to fighting. That's also like kind of worth mentioning. But regardless, yeah, Dedenne is a card that is really, I think it's cool. I think it's not too good because it's a liability, but it is fun. I will say I like explosive draw cards. Sedenne GX is kind of the definition of that. Shaman EX we'll talk about in a second is also kind of like that. And yeah, I think Dedenne is. I think I'd like to see a card like Dedenne in the game right now as like a really strong draw card. I wish the draw was a little stronger in the game. In standard right now, to be honest. I mean, I could see why you wouldn't want it as well. I think it's certainly fine where it is, but um, Dedenne is a cool card that I do like and would kind of like to see back. I mean, I don't think it has to be back in the game, but I do like it.
Yeah, a couple other points to say. Neither one, you adjusted it some, but neither one has a very good attack. I guess Squawkabilly's attack's better in that it's for one colorless, so you can use it in any deck potentially, but occasionally you got to use it if that's all you got. Yeah, I think we've all been there. And the other thing is they kept the HP the same, which really, since I'm not trying to like fuss about it, but there is, I think, power creep is true to some extent anyway. Keeping it at 160 HP makes it even a softer target than it was. The Dedenne GX was a soft target back in its day, and Squawkabilly EX is certainly a very soft target now. So that's part of it. I am concerned if the Dedenne GX's ability was reprinted that it would be too powerful. I guess if they brought it back now, since we don't have Quick Ball, the only way really to get it into hand would generally be through Ultra Ball. You have to discard two cards anyway. Maybe that's fair. Although when you play Dedenne's ability, you're still discarding your hand, so maybe those two extra cards to discard don't matter. So if Quick Ball is in format, I think I'm happy without Dedenne in format right now. That's my take, but I guess I could go either way a bit.
Yeah, I will say Dedenne GX is very strong. When you look at cards that are overpowered, ultimately an overpowered card is much more problematic on a main attacker than a support card because if it's a main attacker, it's pushing out a lot of other cards, right? There's not that many support Pokemon. Most cards in the game are designed to be main attackers. I mean, most like don't have abilities, so most can't really be like these draw support bench Pokemon. So today GX wouldn't be pushing out all these Pokemon to the extent that like some super broken main attacker would, which means that you can have broken draw card or draw support cards or trainers in the game, and the game is still fair. I guess I don't know exactly what fair always means, but yeah, I think like it definitely is very strong. I could like if you say this is too strong, like I see where you're coming from. I kind of agree. I do think it is kind of too strong, but I also think it's fun.
Right, because that HGX, if you're putting together a list of the best cards ever in Pokemon TCG, the Den AGX gets consideration, I think. So therefore, it gets a little scary. Whereas Squawkabilly EX, I don't think that's ever going to get any consideration on a list of the best Pokemon of all time.
Yeah. But then let's talk about the other ones that are really similar
Yeah,
to it, which are Crobat V and Shaman EX, which both have an on-play ability that says draw till you have 6 cards in hand. So you don't lose your cards. You need to thin your hand down to be able to draw cards. But then there is a big difference between the two cards. I mean, the one is banned. Shaman EX, which by the way has a lower HP, power levels were lower, but it is still low HP, and it had its ability, which you could. That's all it said. Just drop till you have 6. But Crobat V said that you could only use one of that ability per turn, just like Dedenne GX, which says you can use one Dead Exchange per turn. Crobat V was it like Dark Asset or something?
yeah,
Um,
Dark Asset. Yep.
and versus setup on Shaman EX, which you could use multiple times. So then Shaman got banned. I will also mention the card Scoop Up Net. I don't know if we'll talk about it too much here today, but that allowed you to return it to your hands, Shaman EX specifically, so you could replay it. Again, Scoop Up Net's kind of weird, and ultimately it's not like it got printed wrong, but it didn't use the term rule box, which it probably should have, because that wasn't like in use at the time. If that had been done differently, potentially the card wouldn't be banned. Scoop Up Net. Regardless, Shaman EX is very strong, allowing you to draw a ton of cards. I will also mention Genesect V here. Genesect V is kind of stronger than Shaman EX for Mew VMAX. It's like absurdly good. And yeah, that's like not that wasn't so fun because it was super dominant, the Mewtwo Max deck. But Shaman EX is really strong, but also like a substantial liability on the bench. They'll just have an attack that gets out of play. um I feel like Shaman is, I guess, too good. I don't know how strong it is without scoop up effects, but it is a strong card. I don't know if it would like break the game. I would not actually hate to see Shaman EX just plopped into standard, but again, it could be a bit of an issue.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to see Shaman EX. And Shaman, like you said, well, the HP is significantly lower. 110 HP for Shaman, Crobat V 180. So they bumped the energy, the HP a lot in Crobat, but once per turn, a huge change, which I think was correct. I don't want to see Shaman's ability set up that you can do as many times as you want in a turn. I don't think that's good. And you did have double colorless energy, I'm pretty sure, in format with Shaman. So you could attach one energy and you could get it out of play too, potentially, if you're setting up maybe for future turns. So it gave you that option. Whereas Crobats is a darkness and a colorless attack. It does more damage and stuff, but it's a lot of decks can't attack with it that played it, which again I think was smart design by Pokemon there. So I like, I think a card like Crobat coming back I could be okay with. I don't want to see Shaman EX come back because I think it's too strong without that restriction. I think that I think that change is necessary myself.
Yeah, and also Shaman EX, it does take up bench space, but there is, I was gonna say there's Skyfield. There's not Skyfield. There is the stadium. What's it? Oh yeah, Air Zero Underdepths,
Yeah,
and so you can like get a big bench and just like draw tons of cards. I will say like there isn't again Quick Ball unless you discard from your hand on play. So you do have Ultra Ball, and that discards two, but your hand might get clogged at some point. I don't know. I mean, it's really strong. People might just be playing like Donk or something. I don't really know, but um, yeah, Shaman is probably too strong. I mean, it's very strong. It's definitely overpowered. It is kind of fun in my opinion. But I actually kind of want to see back in expanded. I imagine I'm in the minority with that one, but yeah, Shaman EX is like super strong. Crobat V I think is definitely the fairest of those four: Dedenne, Crobat, um, Squawkabilly, and Shaman. I think, did I say? I hope I
yeah,
said a different
I
one.
think you got it
I guess
right there.
Squawkabilly is also pretty fair, but Squawkabilly is
Yeah,
only a one turn thing. It's like super absurd on the turn you use it. It's actually stronger than Dedenne because again, it isn't on play from hand. So it could be used later in the turn. It's just like
yeah,
so good. Versus Crobat, which is like more fair throughout the course of the game, not drawing you crazy amounts of cards. It's not bailing you out of bad hands all the time either. However, I do think it's cool. Will also mention you could use multiple of them in the same turn as each other. So you could use a ignoring Shaman, which doesn't have the restriction. You could use a Dedenne and a Crobat, or
oh
like
right,
if you had Squawkly, you could use Squawkly and Dedenne, which is kind of cool. Which I think is kind of fun. Allowing you to have that option, but again, it's like very strong explosive draw, which isn't really the direction the game's going in. I think the only deck that is kind of like that is like Raging Bull, um, which is less like that than it has been in the past as well because it's not um, doesn't have as many turbo cards. It's using a stage one draw engine generally. So, the game isn't in that position. I think a lot of people like it as like a bit of a slower game to get your first Pokemon set up, which I understand. I do like explosive stuff, but I see why people don't like that.
yeah. I mean, I think games to be able to be slow paced at times, and if you allow decks and format and cards that encourage turbo decks, they kind of the fast decks push out the slower decks usually, unless it's like a counter wall deck. And I don't think any of us. I know I don't want to see too much of that. Some of that in format's good, but I don't want to see that to dominate. And Crobat is certainly fair the Dedenne GX because they were in format together most of the time, or a lot of the time together.
Yeah.
And Dedenne GX was in a lot more decks than the Crobat, or either some played Dedenne without Crobat. It was rare you played Crobat without Dedenne GX, except for Eternus VMAX. That would certainly be a glaring exception. So that was, and a lot of times if you play multiple Dedennes, it may be one Crobat in the deck too. So Dedenne was the stronger Pokemon. I'm pretty confident saying than Crobat.
Yeah. Um, but then, do you want to talk about Oricorio GX? I did not play that much
Yeah,
Oricorio GX. Or I just thought of some other cards we can mention. We could mention Rotom and V and Zacian V, which are kind of similar as well. They draw you three and end your turn. They're weaker.
yeah.
Zacian V, very different, but there are some similarities there as well.
Yeah, right. But well, I'll Pheasantipity because everyone knows that. So the 210 HP, flip the script ability. If one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your last turn, which happens a lot, then as we know, you draw three cards. So draw three cards most of your turns. Super, super great there. The old Oricorio GX also had essentially the same ability, Dance at the Tribute. Again, you drew three cards if Pokemon was knocked out, and you can only use one of that ability per turn. The same thing with Pheasantipity. So the abilities are essentially the same, different names. What they did do is, in this case, which is unusual, is they made the newer card, the Pheasantipity, significantly better than the old card. Because I would play Oricorio on some of my decks, like Mad Party. Was it in a Welder deck? I don't remember.
It probably was. It wasn't. Yeah, it was definitely in Baby Blacephalon.
Yeah, so I played it more the Oricorio GX than you, and I did like it. Usually it was a one of in a deck, just like Pheasantipity is now. Pheasantipity is more widespread than Oricorio was in its day, but they made Pheasantipity a lot better twofold. First, it's 210 HP versus 170. Like I said, there's a little power creep, but I do think HP's higher relative to things. I would say. But the other thing is, Pheasantipia has a good attack. It doesn't get used a lot, but it's three colorless, so you can potentially powder up in any deck, and it does 100 to any Pokemon, active or bench. That's good. Whereas Oricorio was three energies, one was a psychic, and it did 80 damage. So just a much worse attack. Most decks couldn't use it at all. And it did have a GX attack, but it wasn't a good GX attack. So you really didn't want to do that either. So they upped the HP and they buffed the attack. Again, the attack doesn't get used a lot, but it is nice having that as an option. So they took Oricorio, which was played, and I think the designer said, we want to see this card played more, so they made Pheasantipity a little bit better, and it does see almost universal play. These days, almost every deck just tosses in one Pheasantipity as one of the starting cards in most decks.
Do you like Pheasantipity in the game right now? I do. But I know some people don't like it in the game.
Um, I think the game needs it because there aren't a lot of good engines. Um, Now, Pheasantippi's three random cards, right? So, I would it be better to have better? If you put some better engines, particularly like single prize engines in the game, then I wouldn't mind dropping out Pheasantipity. But right now, there's not many engines. There's not a lot of draw. So without Pheasantipity, I think the games would just mire down too often that you're just, both players would be struggling to get going. So once the game gets going with Pheasantipity, you can stream attacks reasonably well. And, games where people can't stream attacks consistently are just kind of ugly, ugly messes to me.
Yeah, I agree. You're in like top deck mode.
Yeah.
And also, I do want to mention we've been saying the engines are kind of bad. The main thing we are talking about, or one of the things, is that we don't have cards like Dedenne GX or Shaman EX, which are strong engine cards, and also things like Zoroark GX, which is similar to Enzoric EX. They have essentially the same ability, except Enzoric EX is on a Pokemon that's a bit of a liability, versus Zoric GX was on an ability, was an ability on a Pokemon that was really strong with like a strong attack. So you'd want it in the active, and then something like Chinchino, which has the
Right.
same ability, which is not like it was an insane engine, but it was on a single prizer, which was cool, and then also an ability like the Inteleon engine, which is
Yeah.
very similar to the Knockdown engine, which actually I think is a strong engine.
Yeah. It is.
However, that's like only specific to some decks, so ultimately it's good there, but it's not playable in something like like Gardevoir or something. You can't play Noctowl in that. And then also something like Curlia, right? Pre-rotation and
Yeah.
Barrel, those engines were pretty strong as well. Stronger than what we have now. But yeah, I think Pheasantipede is cool. I do, as I said, want to mention Zacian V and Rotom V as well. Which are kind of cool. And notably, they have, specifically with the Rotom V, Forest Seal Stone to search any card, which is kind of interesting. I don't really feel like talking about Forest Seal Stone too much. It rotated with last rotation. And there's also a card that is like it's very different. But those draw three abilities end your turn. Rotom V was regarded as a really strong draw engine, unlike Zacian V, which actually has an objectively better ability. By a little
Well,
bit. And it's interesting because Zacian V was a strong attacking Pokemon. Rotom V was like good as an ability, but that was it really. I mean, I know you like attack with Rotom V, but Zacian V is a strong attacker. But obviously those abilities are worse, but they are somewhat similar. They are, drawing three cards. I will say Oricorio GX wasn't like insanely strong. It was like pretty solid. Probably fair. Pheasantipede is like probably too strong, but I don't hate Pheasantipede. As I said, I do like it. But I do see why they buffed it. Unlike something like Dedenne GX, which they, as you said, they nerfed most of those other cards as time kind of went on. Yeah, I guess Shaman is the strongest, then Dedenne, then Crobat, then Squawkbilly. Not sure about Squawkbilly versus Crobat. Nah, Crobat's probably stronger. Regardless, yeah, I think that the reason they buffed it is because Oricorio was actually overshadowed by those other cards.
yeah, just briefly on that, your Zacian V versus the Rotom V. Yes, Zacian V was better if you had metal energies because you could attack with it and it was a great attack, and you could attach the energies to it as part of its ability. That was better. But the reason Zacian V wasn't used so much is when Zacian V was that was a deregulation, same as Crobat V, and Dedenne GX was in format most of the time with that as well. So those cards were gone. So when Rotom V was around when the other options were limited, right? So that's why Rotom V saw more play. I got to imagine just as a pure engine card than Zacian V did.
Yeah. Also, Zacian V. I mean, again, it is an attacky Pokemon. It's a big basic attacker. I guess. I mean, it's like not surviving hits that often, but is doing a bunch of damage and is a card that was paired when it was in a format with a lot of big basics and some relatively easy to power up stage one equivalent Pokemon with the V maxes, some V stars. Rotom V was more so in a format that's more similar to what we have now with stuff like Charizard EX. I think is the Pokemon that I associate most with Rotom V. Um, and that's a stage two. You need more time. You have more time, you need more time, you need more specific resources in specific orders, and are looking for less explosive draw, looking for more like solid consistent draw, which is I think also why Rotom V, I think I saw a lot more players in a draw ability. I don't remember exactly how much plays Ashton V saw as a draw ability. I certainly saw some. It's not like it was like bad or meaningless or anything like that, but um yeah, it's kind of interesting how they are like kind of the same. I mean, Zashubi has more HP. It does have a higher retreat, but it actually isn't like that big of a deal, which we might actually touch on later. But it's kind of interesting to see the change there. Also, I will mention Cleffa in standard, kind of like them. It's a bit different. There's also Gormdice, Snorlax, and some other cards there that we're not really going to talk about. But yeah, also these are all multi-prizes. Yeah, I think all the ones we said are.
Yeah.
I will mention, or I guess yeah, we'll talk about this. Search ones, the supporter search ones in a second, but yeah, they're all multi prizes, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think because these are good, really good abilities, right? So therefore, to make them balanced in the game, you generally not you don't want to attack with it, so so it becomes a true prize liability, which is important. And it was also important, like as someone that myself would like to play Mad Party, a single prize attacker, like the Denny GX was really good, but of course, and as was like Oricorio GX, but of course, then you're giving two prize liabilities, and so then your opponent, if your opponent's taking two prizes every turn, then you can't really win with a single prize attacking thing. So I think it was good, probably for the game. A really good engine piece probably needs to be a two prize. It probably is just a basic rule, I think.
Yeah, and I do want to quickly mention or touch on the fact that I do want to see that out of three prizers to have really strong draw engines. I think that would be cool. That are like big liabilities that are really powerful, which I don't know if we'll end up seeing because we talked about three prizes a bunch on this channel, but yeah, I did want to mention that. But then we have the search cards, which are, or these supporter search cards, which are Luminion V, Dracha EX, and Tapu Lele GX, which was the strongest of them. Notably, its HP was like solid for, like it was okay at the time. Certainly, it wasn't horrendous, so it was okay. Um, And then it did have a really solid attack as well,
Yeah.
and so that was the best of them. And you could play supporters turn one, and yeah, Jirachi EX was solid, and Lupinia V was solid as well. I mean, they're strong cards, but they all just search for supporter on play from hand. I will also mention you mentioned Eldegoss B, which recovers it from the discard. Again, we'll talk about
Right.
that a little bit more later. But getting any supporter is useful. I mean, I think supporters are good. You like to play decks with like four of supporters. I like to play more tech supporters, but with like more universals. I don't know. I like stuff like Noctowl and Inteleon, which are like cool engines. And I don't know. I don't like Luminion V and Type Related GX as much.
Okay, first, I think people understood what you meant, but the way you phrased it was odd. You play the Pokemon from the hand, and then you search your deck. And almost the way you phrased it sounded like you're searching your hand for a supporter,
Oh,
which
yeah,
you really
that'd
don't
be
need to
kind of
do.
bad.
So, but I think people know that. Just want to clarify that. So Jirachi EX was 90 HP. That's capital EX, by the way. So that made it 90 HP very weak, right? And not a very good attack, I don't think. I mean, well, it might have been a good attack. It was if it was a metal dex. I don't know how often it took metal, so I don't know how often it was used for an attack, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think it was used. I can't think of it really being used. But anyways,
Yeah, so comparing Tapu Lele, which is again one of the best cards of all time, right? I think so. It's kind of
yeah, probably, yeah,
like the Denny GX Tapu Lele is probably even better, I guess. So therefore,
yeah, Lily, probably.
so I don't think I want to see it come back. First off, searching for a supporter from your deck is very good. Luminion V, they nerfed it a couple ways. First off, they kept the HP the same, so therefore made it essentially weaker. But like you said, Tapu Lele had really good attacks. They actually had the GX attack for one energy. It wasn't bad, I guess, right? It healed all the damage to your bench Pokemon. I
I
imagine
guess
that
it's
saw
all
some use.
niche.
But the first attack was
Yeah.
good, right? For two colorless
Mhm.
energies, and we had double colorless in format, so one energy attachment, you paid for it, and then 20 damage per amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon. If you cat, so you need two energies. So you already were doing 40. The HPs were lower. Your opponent has some energy, so the attack damage numbers could be meaningful as well. So a really good ability and a solid attack made this a very, very good Pokemon.
Yeah, I will also mention Jirachi EX. It's not banned, but it got another card banned, which is what's that called? Island Challenge Amulet, because you could actually like attach it, then like knock yourself out, because it reduced your HP by 100, and then it's banned because it like did some stuff. So did want to mention that it doesn't really matter for this discussion, but I think it's kind of funny. But yeah, you as you said, the attack on Tapu Lele GX is like super good. The same attack as Mewtwo EX in the same era as Jirachi EX, I think. And maybe not quite the same era, but pretty close. And yeah, Mewtwo EX is like super strong, also one of the strongest cards of all time because of its attack, which is the same as Tapu Lele GX's attack, which is not the reason why it's good. Like its attack is it's not insane because power levels increased some in that time, and the game like changed notably quite a bit in that time. But yeah, the attack was like really solid, which is kind of crazy to put on. I think it's by far the strongest attack on any of the Pokemon that we've taken a look at so far. Um, I guess Zacian V's attack is stronger, but that's kind of different. And
Yeah.
then like Shaman EX's attack is like it's pretty good, but it's like useful for like what the card is. But no, like Tapu Lele GX just has a solid attack for like a general use case. I mean, you wouldn't really use that as a main attacker ever because it's not that good, but it's pretty solid. Definitely, honestly, just I think the card is cool. I mean, ultimately in standard wouldn't be as strong because playing it turn one going first. Oh, actually, no, you can use Carmen though, so it might be solid for that. But you can't use any supporter. Again, it is an on playability from hand, so you need it's like Ultra Ball or need it in your hand. I don't know. I think the card's cool. Definitely one of the cards I like. Again, I like these stronger versions of these cards, but I think Tapu Lele is cool, but obviously, as you said, very strong.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the attack wasn't the main attacker in a deck, but it could be like your number two attacker, right? Your second option that you had a main attacker, and this could work as a number two attacker. As most of the other support Pokemon don't fit to that, so I wouldn't want to see Tapu Lele come back. Lumineon V though, I do like that. I would kind of like to see that come back. It's nice to have that agency that it gives. The question is, if you brought it back now, well, let's talk let's talk Eldegoss V briefly. You don't like it that much, and I agree it's not as good. Didn't see as much play as Lumineon V. They were around together pretty much. So that happy match looked for a supporter from your discard pile and put it into your hand. So not bad, obviously good. So I would play it some, and I imagine you played it some too, even though you say you don't like it because it had value. Late game, right? You play your supporters, all your bosses are in deck. You need a boss for game. You slap down the Eldegoss V and you close things out. So it was probably one of those things of you might play two Lumineon V, you might play one Eldegoss. I'm not sure that you play two Lumineon V, honestly, but and the attack on Eldegoss V was okay. Did 50 shuffle back in the deck, which is a fair attack on a card like this.
Yeah. Oh, this attack was used. This was the main attacker actually in attack. Oh wait, this deck saw more play than I thought. I mean, not like that much play, but it was like a control deck where
Yeah.
I think this was the Mewtwo Reunion deck. Maybe it wasn't. I don't. I'm not really familiar with this deck. I'm not gonna lie. It's some like hit and run deck. It's kind of like not super strong. I did not play this. I don't think I really played against it, but did want to mention that.
Yeah, I see it saw some play and some level of success. So, like Eldegoss V was okay. It wasn't great. Just but getting back to Lumineon V, so I want to ask you a question. I would like to see this come back into format. At the time, you could maybe attack sometimes with it as well. You would actually because we had Melanie to accelerate energy to it, or
And
something.
Lugia, it was pretty meaningful as an attacker in Lugia.
Yeah, because it does 120 and goes back in your deck. So whereas these other ones are doing like 20 or 30 or 50 and go back to the deck, 120 and back in your deck is actually really good for your support Pokemon. But let me ask you this. So let's say it gets printed again, Lumineon V. Should it be an on-play ability? Of course, we have Nest Ball rather than Ultra Ball, which make it tougher. Or should it have an ability that you can activate later? Or if you did that, would it be too powerful? Right? Squawkabilly EX, since it's only your first turn, you can't put it in play and wait to do it. But would it be too good if you had Lumineon V? You could play it one turn, leave it there till you needed it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that would be kind of broken if you could leave it till like a later turn. Um, because you could just like play at turn one, then use it like right like at the end of the game. It is a bit of a liability, but it's like really
Yeah.
strong. I don't know if it would be broken. I wouldn't hate to see that, but it's very strong. Obviously it shouldn't be. You need to like reword it, so it's not every turn. I think it should be the ability should be like you can use it during your turn. You don't need to use it immediately, but then it like gets. I was gonna say discard at the end of the turn. Maybe not, but I don't know. It should be like only
Hmm.
usable the turn you play it. I think would be fair, but like kind of
Okay.
just make it like Squawkabilly, except it's like that turn, but any turn of the game. But if that makes sense.
No,
But
I like that idea. Yeah, I would. It shouldn't go back in your deck because you want the true prize liability sticking around. That's part of the downs. It makes these good two prize ability Pokemon fair. Is you have the true prize liability, which is one third of the prizes your opponent needs to take. But yeah, that wording the text would be weird because I don't know if there's ever been a
yeah, oh,
card.
I got an idea.
Go ahead.
You could just say if you don't use the ability on your turn, then it's knocked out.
Oh, that's
And then then you just obviously use it. If you don't need it, you just use it because why not? Um, yeah,
right. Well, there are times, let's say, like you have a Pokemon, let's say you had Lumineon V, but you need to just thin your hand to draw more, which you might, right? Then you might just play it and not use the ability because you just needed, like, you needed some items, let's say, and you just had a draw
yeah.
till, you had the barrel in hand. You might play
I mean,
Lumineon
you could
V.
always use it and fail it, and then you shuffle your deck, but that's
Right.
not like that.
Oh, that's true, which you could do that turn as well. So you could always fail it too. Okay. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, that's interesting. You fail it, or you could say you have to use it that turn. The ability only works the turn it was put into play. I guess you could have some wording like that too. So
Yeah.
those would be interesting ideas.
But regardless, yeah, I think these cards are like they're kind of cool. I like them. Some of them are really really strong. But yeah, I do want to go talk about Eldegoss though, because I think we're done with this category of cards,
Yeah.
which are the main category that we were looking to talk about today. But there are some meaningful ones as well, and some that are, in my opinion, more expanded feeling. I'm not sure. These are quintessential expanding cards, but another one is Versus Seeker versus. Oh, I searched VS and it showed all the V stars. Okay. Versus Seeker is an item card on plate, which says you get a supporter from your discard into your hand. And then, of course, you can play that supporter that turn. This card is really strong. I'm actually in a weird like tournament thing in right now, and Versus Seeker is in that, and it's really good. Looking at expanded, it's in not all the decks, but like essentially all the decks. Well, they're all Retro Draco, but um, regardless, versus Seeker is a really strong card because it allows you to play lots of one of supporters and reuse them. Also, it turns it's not searching supporters per se, but it's kind of doing that because at the end of the game you can you'll have a lot of them in the discard, right? And then you can just like get
Yeah.
whatever you want. And then there is the card Battle Compressor, which is an item that lets you search the deck for 3 cards, put them into the discard, which I want to talk about Battle Compressor a bit more. But that is a good synergy with Versus Seeker, and those two allow you to search your deck for any supporter or discard, which is cool. I do want to also mention Pelipper in Standard, which has the ability on play stage 1, search your deck or discard for a supporter, put it into your hand. A cool card. I think if it was tweaked a little, it would be actually pretty good. Notably for the search ball for Fan Rotom, I think it would be a good card. It has, I don't remember, like 120, 110 HP, something like that. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, versus Seeker though is like the version of the card that's really strong, kind of overpowered, but pretty cool as well.
Yeah, it's super powerful. I mean, look, Eldegoss V, which wasn't quite good enough, but now it's an item, so you don't have a liability in play. It searches, just put a supporter just probably in your hand. Super powerful card, I gotta say. So I think I don't, I mean, I played it a lot. If you played um, I played Mad Party Expanded for a while, and you Battle Compressor is great for a deck like that. 3 cards from the deck right into the trash, super awesome. And you'd put your Mad Parties to get your damage level you want, but you'd also go, okay, if you have Versus Seeker, I'll put a research in this turn so I can get that back and research away my hand or whatever you want. So especially that combo, Battle Compressor versus Seeker, it's just too good. I mean, I certainly don't think I'd want to see that in standard format. I gotta say.
Yeah, it changes the game a lot because you have what's that, Team Rocket's transceiver or receiver or something like
I
that.
think receiver.
And
Yeah.
that card is really good for the Team Rocket stack, and the supporters are like solid. They're actually pretty strong for the Team Rocket stack, but in my opinion, that card is the best Team Rockets card. No, honestly, arguably the best card from the set. If you ignore the fact, like it's only usable in a certain deck, but like it's insane in that deck, in my opinion. Not that I play it that much because the deck just isn't super strong, but the item is so good, and this is like very similar, but it's for any deck, so it is kind of broken. I think it enables certain cards to um, it enables you to reuse cards. You could play some tech supporter and use it a bunch, which is kind of cool. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like, I can't think of any tech supporters off the top of my head, to be honest. The only one I thought it was Brock Scouting, which is used to counter Badoo, and I don't think Versus Eco is going to be what you're looking for there. So, yeah, they're like if there's something that discards energy, you could play that, and then when you need it, you can do it a lot. But that's kind of annoying, so maybe that's not a good thing. Um, it's kind of cool with like Guzma and expanded, allowing you to have extra access to switch, so games don't end with Pokemon being trapped too often, which is kind of good in my
Right.
opinion. Specifically, like hurting Pokemon like Snorlax, which is kind of good. But yeah, I mean, Versus Eco is very strong. I think it would be probably the best card in the game if it came back. But
Yeah.
it's kind of cool allowing you to have extra access to like a wide variety of supporters. I don't know. I can see why it's like not in the game, and I don't expect it to be reprinted, but it's very good and very fun at times.
All right. So obviously the way this is going, you're saying like all these busted cards, we should bring back to standard, and I think I'm having to be the voice of reason here. So,
Yeah, well,
I'll,
I think expanded is like expand is the silly format, and you can't play these cards in live, so I want to play these cards. But
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
they're probably bad for the game. I don't think this card, in terms of like, it doesn't make anything. It's very strong, but it doesn't like in terms of effects. I think it just makes things more consistent, which isn't like a bad thing.
well.
And having more access to like Gust, I don't think is bad for the game. I think that's kind of like Gust, like is an important part of the game. Missing Gust feels bad. And then like missing draw supporters also feels really bad. So in some ways it does like cut into the draw supporter count, so it makes it more consistent in the late game, less consistent in the early game. But I do think it is a it does add some stuff to the game, which can be cool. Though again, it is a very strong card, a bit problematically so.
Yeah, I think it's too strong to bring back to standard. I just, and also what happens with the control decks, right? If control decks, and which aren't great now, but it
But
wasn't
this
that.
also is good against control.
Yeah, but it makes them. I get it, but I don't think like back when we had the block Snorlax, I don't think having Versus Seeker would have. Yes, it would have helped the non uh, Snorlax decks, but I think it would have made the Snorlax decks just that much better, right? I don't think it would have been good for the
Um,
game.
I
Uh,
I think it would. I think it would be good. I think it would make the deck worse because you could play Professor Toad's scenario, and then you can use that a bunch of times. Yes, you could have your items milled through something, but they're probably not all going to get milled, so you'll have some extra access to that maybe. Um, I don't know. I do see where you're coming
all
from,
right,
but Versus Seeker is like played in lots of things that are in control.
all right. Let me make a hypothetical question here, just quickly, because I'm trying to find something reasonable to bring it back. Or we don't. We had A specs not that long ago, and I was going to say we're not talking about A specs, but I realized that's a lie to say that. I think we'll see. We might talk
Yeah.
about the big one. But if you had made Versus Seeker as an A spec, would it have seen play
There's an A spec that's better
that
than
does
Versus
that?
Seeker.
Oh, that has what's it? Oh, got
There's
two.
what's
What
it?
did it do?
Receiver something? What is
Oh,
it? It's like headset.
yeah.
I don't remember. Miracle headset. There we go.
What's it
Yeah,
do?
I've not. Oh, apparently this card. Okay, so I was wrong about that Snorlax thing. The only deck I've seen playing is Snorlax, but
Okay.
I've seen some playing some. It's barely seen playing anything that's not Snorlax. I saw him playing Chandelure, Totodile Mill. Um, regardless, yeah, this is like an ace spec. It's like not strong enough.
Okay. Yeah,
I
you're
think
right.
like Dowsing
You're
Machine, which
right.
I'm gonna talk about, or not gonna talk about, but Dowsing Machine, I think is a little cooler. Yeah, Versus Seeker, it's a little strong, right? I think it should have maybe some other cost, maybe like force you to discard cards from your hand or something. Um, but I think if it was nerfed a little, I mean, I like the T market. What is it? Receiver,
Transceiver, you were right when I think
transceiver.
you
Okay.
said that.
So T Market's transceiver is. I think you agree that it's a cool card, right? And you like tag call, and I think Versus Eco is kind of similar.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Team Rocket's transceiver only works for Team Rocket's supporters, so that's a
Yeah.
that's a big change versus Eco that gets any support. Now, transceiver is from deck, right?
Yeah.
Which is this is from the discard pile. Um, I think I just think versus Seeker is just too strong for an item. That's just what I think. I think it's too strong for an item to bring back into the game. I think if
Yeah.
they
That's
did it,
fair.
it would have some other some they have to they have to nerf it somehow. But I'm not sure how do you do that because it's a very simple card text wise what it does. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyways, so enough of me being the voice of reason. Let's talk about Battle Compressor and why Battle Compressor should be brought back. No, so Battle Compressor, I mentioned it, but you search your deck for 3 cards and put them into
Yeah.
the discard, and then you shuffle your deck after. Um, this card was nerfed a lot. There was the A spec that's a little stronger than this. It's like 5 cards, but it's really niche, and it's like it's good. I mean, it's good in Serial Edge, and that's
Yeah.
it, right? I guess United Wings, but
Yeah.
um, so this would be really good in United Wings, notably in Standard. When it was in Standard, it was really good with Night March, which is like United Wings. And I think it's a cool card. It enables like a lot of the decks it's played in. I just think are really fun, but also kind of explosive and arguably not fun. Right? I can very much see why you don't like it. I know some people like this a lot because it just thins your deck to like thin it, which I like don't really care about. I mean, thinning is like useful to an extent, but regardless, it does that, but it allows you to get cards in the discard for like specific combo type things, notably like as I said, stuff like United Wings to do damage based on stuff in the discard or like Serial Edge. Um, also, it is useful as I said with Versus Seeker and would be really useful with Night Stretcher as well to be almost like
Yeah.
an actual one. Night Stretcher is kind of a search card, not really, but with this, it definitely becomes that. And then also Execute. Execute's a really cool card. Execute kind of broken, but Execute is a card from something. What's it? Plasma Blast or something? Plasma Freeze. And it says with its ability propagation once during your turn. By the way, no idea why it says once during your turn. But it says if this Pokemon is in your discard, you may put it into your hand. Once it's there, then it switches zones, and then the once per turn thing resets, so it doesn't actually, it's not once per turn. But regardless, this can be brought back to your hand as many times as you want during your turn, which is really strong with something like Enzorg EX or Zorg GX and expanded. Which is cool. But this card is not like insane expanded either. It's not played that much. Can get ability locked by Garbo, which we're not talking about. I don't like ability lock. I like things that let lots of things happen, not reduce the number of things. But I know why people like that some. But execute is it's kind of fun, allowing you to one, it allows you to use Ultra Ball and like stuff like that easier. Obviously the restriction makes Ultra Ball worse, but I think it's a cool card. It obviously, it enables you to just do more things that are kind of silly. I like the kind of silly things. But yeah, Battle Compressor. Not gonna talk too much about execute, but Battle Compressor, I think is fun. It's kind of weird. It's one of the Team Flare Gear cards. Not the like tools, which I think are really bad because people would like take them by accident. But they're cards that are like supposed to be bad, right? Because like losing cards, why do you want to lose your cards?
Right.
So it's kind of interesting. I think the Team Flare cards are kind of fun. You got like Target Whistle there, which like helps your opponent technically, not like actually, but gets their Pokemon back. But Battle Compressor, I think, is a kind of fun card. Obviously, it was nerfed a lot. With Professor Burnett, I think is the name of the supporter.
Yeah.
And that's worse than this on a supporter and saw a lot of competitive play. But that was also like a little specific. And also like it was switched off Luminion, and Battle Compressor wasn't something you want to be using every turn. So it's kind of different. But a Battle Compressor, I think is cool. Should it come back? I actually don't know if it would actually be a problem in standard. And if United Wings is insane, I'm certainly not complaining about that either. Because that deck, I mean, single prize are just kind of bad. The best one, I guess, is Ethan's probably, which is like okay, but not that good. And it's one of the better single prize decks we've seen in quite a while. So.
Yeah, I mean, bringing up Professor Burnett was good because shows how much they nerfed it, which was massive because it went from an item to a supporter, which is a big nerf, and it went from 3 cards to 2 cards. So just a huge change, and obviously Lugia played it basically. I think what Professor Burnett came out, I believe with the V Union Pokemon.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm trying to think. I don't want to see Battle Compressor and Versus Seeker both come back and format together. Um, if Battle Compressor came back to standard form, would it be okay? And I think maybe I'm wondering if it needs a little more nerfing to it. Maybe you can't search your whole deck. You look at the top 10 cards or the top 15 cards, or maybe rather than up to 3 cards, say you have to discard 3 cards, right? Force you to
That's kind of
do
interesting.
that
Yeah.
because a lot of times then you're gonna be like, because especially decks like even with Mad Party, you wanted to like get your deck in the trash, but at some point I would only trash 1 or 2 cards at times. The Battle Compressor, so forcing 3 makes it a little worse too. Maybe I'm not. I think it needs a little tweaking, but maybe it could come back in some form.
Yeah, I think it'd honestly just be one card as well, making it more so
Hmm.
not niche, but like um, a very specific card. Like you need it for setting up certain specific combos.
Hmm.
Then it's like still good with like something like Versus Seeker, which you don't have, but like Night Stretcher. But then it's it's not as good for United Wings. So it's probably like the opposite of what you want to do. It could just be
Right.
discard 3 Pokemon as well. With Pokemon and energies, maybe that'd be. I don't know. I think there's some different ideas there. I think it is a cool card. It's very unique as well. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I think how could it come back is a question. You can let us know in the comments of the videos about ways that maybe Battle Presser could come back, or some other card that you think is too strong, but how it can come back in a fair way. Where do you want to go to next? You want to talk about computer search, the one A spec?
Yeah. Computer search. I'll just quickly say what it does. Computer search is an A spec and was definitely the best A spec when it was in standard, saying you discard 2 cards from your hand, search for any one card, put it into your hand, which gets anything. And how good do you think this would be in standard right now if it just came back?
Right now, it's because it takes your A spec spot. Then it, I think it would be okay. I don't think it would break the game, honestly. Would it? I'm not trying to think.
Yeah.
Even would it be the most played A spec? Or would you rather play Prime Catcher? I'm not even sure how that would go there. Personally, what do you think?
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting discussion. I don't think we can get into it too much here, but I think it is cool. It's a card that is obviously it's something that was really good. However, I think it fits more in expanded format and like more aggressive formats. Setting up maybe a combo or like a big turn. Kind of like something. It's actually reminds me a lot of Secret Box, which I thought was insane when it was revealed, and I think it would be insane if it like an expanded. I think I actually don't remember what the most played ace spec is an expanded right now. It might be maybe Prime Catcher. I'm gonna quickly check. Oh, it's Megaton Blower. Okay, well that's not what I was expecting. So
Okay.
yeah. Anyways, like it's really it fits expanded is like kind of. But there's two sides of expand, right? There's the control side, which obviously Megaton Blower is a control card, and
Yeah.
then there's the like crazy combo side of expanded. Prime
Right.
Catcher is neither of those. It's a little crazy combo, but it's not this level of computer search to get anything to allow you to do pretty much anything. If you get any one card from your deck, you can pretty much do anything you want. Not anything, but almost anything. And then if you get if you just like gust, I mean that's like useful, but like you can just gust, right? You can do then expand it kind of not whenever you want, but you can do it pretty often,
Right.
and still do your other stuff. So it definitely I think fits expanded more. I don't think it's a card that would be bad to see in standard. It allows you to search special energies and things that you can't search very easily off of something like Arbin or just in general. Which is just kind of cool,
Yep.
but it's ultimately not a card that is I think it could be. I think it would be fair in the game, but I think it fits expanded a little better.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. So I don't think it's a card we need to come back. I don't know that. I don't think it's a wrecker for the format. Should we talk? You want to talk about Floatstone and Field Blower next?
Yeah, yeah, sure. You wanna which you wanna talk about first?
I called up Floatstone here, which is a tremendous item card, which is a trainer tool, but it was an item back in the day, would not be now. And the Pokemon cards attached to has no retreat cost. So you said, oh, it's being reprinted, but that's air balloons being reprinted, which
I
is
said it's yeah, being pseudo reprinted.
it's a big difference though.
Yeah,
So it goes to so I mean, air balloon reduces by two, which I think is a big deal. I'm glad air balloon's coming back, but it goes to zero. It also means if there's something that increases retreat costs, like my favorite, like Spite Ops EX, the retreat cost is still zero because it's just no retreat cost. So it doesn't the number it's not giving a number of zero. It's just no retreat cost. So if I believe that interaction works there.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, it is a very strong card. I guess it depends on like what cards are good, which changes how much better or worse it is than
Yeah.
Air Balloon. I will say Flowstone. We saw a lot of play with Garbodor with Garbotoxin. I guess we've talked about it a little bit. I should just talk about it a little bit more here. Which ability locks if it has the tool attached, which I don't like. I think do you not like it or do you like it?
No, I don't. I don't think I want to see that high level of
Yeah.
lock. No.
But anyways, yeah, I saw a lot of play there. Like it's like a four of a lot of the time. I mean, not all the time, but it's pretty highly played compared to something like Rescue Mode, just like a one of maybe a two of index. Or Air Balloon, like same idea. But yeah, and also like replaces Switch, not entirely, but like mostly because it does allow you to switch, as you said, if your virtue cost is increased or like it's high, just naturally. So it's a very strong card. I don't think it's a big problem. Like I think Rescue Board is I mean, it's like obviously worse. It's not a bad card, but it's in my opinion like it could be stronger. And Pokemon's clearly not reprinting Floatstone because they
No.
are reprinting Air Balloon, which is just worse. I think it's fine. I don't think the differences between it and Floatstone or it and Air Balloon, those two cards are is huge. But still, it's a strong card. Don't think it would be a problem, but it's quite strong.
Yeah, I think Air Balloon's the fairer card. So I think obviously Pokemon settled on this. They had Air Balloon, then they did. I mean, they had Floatstone, they did Air Balloon, and now they're bringing back Air Balloon. So they think Air Balloon's fair, which I agree with. And I think you would probably say that as well to some extent. And then Field Blower, which is just a tremendous item card here. You choose up to any combination of two tools and or stadiums in play, and you discard them. So this is just an amazing card, right? Pretty much if you're an expanded, it's hard to imagine a deck that doesn't want to play this. To me, they all don't, but you definitely got to consider it because it's super strong.
Yeah, it's very good. We saw Lost Vacuum, which rotated last rotation, which
Right.
is like 6 months ago or something. I don't know. It's 2 sets ago, and or two main sets ago. And Field Blower is a card that is really. Was I okay? Yeah, I thought I was getting my rotations confused. No, yeah.
Okay.
So Field Blower is just like kind of better. Lost Vacuum has like certain synergies, but yeah, Field
Right.
Blower is really strong. Um, and it's getting reprinted, not reprinted, but it's getting the card that's getting reprinted is Tool Scrapper, which is just tools. I like Field Blower more than Tool Scrapper because we'll talk about some stadiums probably just briefly and a little bit later that are really disruptive. And there are some in standard that they're not really that annoying, but there's some that are annoying. And Field Blower is just like a one of tech that I think like works really nicely. It helps smooth things out a little and reduces some of the annoying stuff that can come up. Into something you can like play around, but it doesn't feel like broken. I mean, like getting rid of multiple of these cards isn't super meaningful. Usually, just getting rid of one is important. Like if I said, discard like 5 tools, like that's not that much better. Discarding tool two is better than getting rid of one. Um, but I think it's like a strong card, but a fair card. I think Lost Vacuum. I like that design a little more. It had some cool synergies with Lost Zone. Lost Zone in your card could be bad, but it is thinning as well. So I think I liked it a little more. But I think this card is cool. I like this more than Tool Scrapper, as I said, in terms of design, but they're both fine.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, Pokemon. I think Field Blower is good, and I'd like to come back. Clearly, Pokemon thinks it's too good because Lost Vacuum just got rid of one, and that was either a tool or a stadium. And Tool Scrapper, which they're bringing back, gets rid of 2 tools, no option for a stadium. So I think it'd be fair. I think it's good. So, I think like because I don't think it breaks the game. I think it is nice flexibility. I would like to see it back in format. I don't like. I think Floatstone's too good between those 2 cards. I think Field Blower coming back just as is. I think that'd be fine for the game.
Yeah. And then we have the next card I want to talk about because we're running a little low on time
Yeah.
as happens. Is Ditto Prism Star. Ditto Prism Star, super cool card, which you said you didn't know. Ditto Prism Star. Wait, how do I search this? Okay, it's called Ditto Prism Star. Is a card which is a basic Pokemon, which oh yeah, it doesn't have an attack. Which is like kind of interesting, I guess, but it has an ability, and Prism Stars are one of in your deck, and they go to the lost zone instead of the discard, which like matters some. Ultimately it just kind of matters a little bit, but whatever. So it has the ability Almighty Evolution, which says once during your turn, before you attack, you may put any stage one card from your hand onto this Pokemon to evolve it. You can't use this ability the first turn you during your first turn or the turn this Pokemon is put into play. So it's a basic to any stage one, which is really cool. It's really versatile. It's been played in a lot of decks. Um, because again, it's really versatile. I will mention in like current expanded V stars are really good, and so it doesn't work with those, but whatever. Um, then you have it like in expanded decks where you can tech in different stage ones. I will say the stage ones that are teched in are mostly like control cards, but um, it is still, in my opinion, a pretty cool card, allowing for different fun techs and also just smoothing out your deck, allowing you to um, have a basic that is pretty consistent to get what you need so you can leave it on your board. Because like, you buddy pop in and like turn one and you're playing, let's just say Charizard Pidgeot, and you have some Pokemon in the active that's not Charmander or Pidgey, and you're like, well, I need Charizard for next turn, so I want 2 Charmanders and I want a Pidgey too. So do I get the Charmander and the Pidgey to be able to get my Pidgeot up, and then my Charmander could get knocked out, and that's really bad? Or do I play it safer, but not get the Pidgeot EX up, and then just get 2 Charmanders? Well, you can get Charmander and Ditto Prism Star, and then be safe. But it's not like it's broken either. And your opponent could, of course, just target down your Ditto Prism Star as well. Um, Oh wait, sorry, never mind. Forget that one. Something like that, but stage one, because you can't rare Candias. But yeah,
Right.
you can do this into any stage one. So something like that, like Golden Go to Dunsparce. There we go. That's a better example. So yeah, something like that. Again, stage twos are very strong in the game right now, but this has versatility again, like Enzoric EX or some other stage one. I think there's just a lot of really interesting combinations with this card, and it's a card that is a really fan favorite. Again, it opens up so many cool things for so many different decks, and it is a Pokemon that encourages single prizers, some, and also evolutions, which is fun.
Yeah, look, Ditto's just a cool Pokemon, and the Dittos are, I think, interesting cards. So you can go from the Ditto Prism Star to a Rule Box Pokemon, right? That wasn't, there's no, so you could go to an EX, I believe, immediately.
Yep. Mhm.
I might want to see it take and remove Roblox Pokemon from it. I don't know if you set up with the Prism Star Pokemon or Prism Star cards. You can only have one copy of per
Yep.
Prism Star in your deck. You can have other Prism Stars, but again, just one copy
Oh
of
yeah.
that.
Mhm.
So one did a Prism Star, and it was knocked out of play. It would go to the lost zone, so you can't recover it.
Yep.
So important to note that. It's a fun card. Would it be okay? I think it would be okay. I don't know if I want to see like the Prism Star um, mechanic come back. Do we need to have more mechanics going into the game right now? I don't know, but it's nice flexibility. You can only goes only can do it one time. So I think it could be fair. You don't. I'll just say briefly. You don't want to see the one stadium you're going to bring up of Silent Lab because then you can't.
Yeah. Oh,
Because
or the other stadium you're gonna bring up, Path to the Peak.
Oh, that's true. Because Path to the Peak, you know what
That's a
that
rule
is. Shuts
box.
off rule box Pokemon, and Prism Stars do have a rule box because they you can only put one in play, and it goes to the thing Silent Lab, which is a really strong basic expanded card. No basic Pokemon in play have abilities, so um, I think it could be okay if it came back. Ditto. I think so. I'm trying to think. Could it be abused? That's the question, right? If it could it be abused too much? I don't think so, but I need to think about that one more before I'd be comfortable saying yes, it should come back.
Yeah, I think it's a cool card. I will say it's kind of like if you're familiar, because Common Fossil, you're pretty familiar with Zoroark, which
Yeah.
has its ability, which turns to different stage ones. It's kind of like that, except it's like consistent, but not as like powerful. I mean, I guess it's probably more powerful because Zoroark just doesn't really work very well. It just doesn't really set up. But it's kind of like that, but like a cool a working version of that. So yeah, because you're not as familiar with Ditto Prism Star. But then let's see, what card do you want to talk about? I think Path and Silent Lab, which are you mentioned them. They're two
Yeah.
stadiums. The one ability locks SpaceX, the one ability locks the Roblox Pokemon, and I don't want them back. I think they're just not fun. We mentioned Garbodor. I think these are really annoying. I personally did not like them in the game because they stopped my Dedenne GXs, so I couldn't draw like all these cards. But yeah, no, I think they're like kind of annoying. They ultimately, and it's not like they specifically path, because people always say, and I agree that multi prizers, and I think we'll talk about this, are just like way better than single prizers, and path hurts multi prizers. Except it didn't make like it was mostly played in multi prize decks. I mean, multi prizers were still by far the best decks. Um, so this didn't really like fix the issue, right?
No, no. It seemed like when we heard the announcement was going to come out, it was going to crush these decks, but you still played the rule box Pokemon with abilities, and you functioned well enough. Now, of course, there was when this came out, was there Tool Scrapper, or that came out later? I mean
Tool
Lost Vacuum.
Scrapper.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Lost Vacuum was later.
Okay.
There were ways to deal with it that were like okay.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Pokemon, right? If I recall. Yeah.
yeah, there's Mars Shadow and there's Pumpkaboo.
Yeah.
Um, but regardless, yeah, Path was kind of. I'm trying to think if there's a time between Mars Shadow and Pumpkaboo. I don't think there was. Regardless, yeah, there are ways to deal with this. They weren't amazing, but like most decks just kind of functioned. You could bump it as well. I think Did you like Path in the game and Silent Lab? So what are your thoughts on those stadiums?
Well, Silent Lab would cause me, sorry, would cause me trouble in a lot of times. So I didn't like seeing Silent Lab. There's some decks, there's good and bad with Silent Lab. There's decks that just are shut you down completely, and that's not a lot of fun. Then the fun side of Silent Lab, though, is that there was the Ultra Necrozma and Ultra Beast that can't attack unless your opponent had two prizes or fewer. So to make that work, you had to shut off your own ability, right? So that's kind of fun
Yeah.
when you shut off your own ability. But making it also made for oppressive decks that just are shutting down everything your opponent does, which too much of that in the game is not fun. I would say.
Yeah. Mhm. Oh, I thought you were going to talk about yeah, and then Path. I thought you were
Oh,
going to also
sorry.
talk about that. But yeah, that also has like I'd say a similar idea, but less of the good. I mean, the like good of the Silent Lab of like the shutting down your own stuff is a little niche. We have also Team Rocket's Watchtower and Standard, which is like kind of like it.
Yeah, and Path is fine. I think I didn't mind it in format, but again, I think we're fine without it. So I'm okay either way there. I know we're wrapping up, so unless you want to talk about Parallel City, I'd like to talk about the energies real quick before we go.
Yeah, I do want to talk about wait, what cards do we have on the list? Because you have that. There's
Well,
Bunnelby, I know.
Okay, there's Bunnelby if you want to hit him, and then we have the energies. So why don't you talk
Okay,
about
that's
Bunnelby?
it. Yeah, Bumblebee is a pretty interesting card here. I don't want to dive into it too much. I will say, so Bumblebee is an ancient trait. Recently made a video saying that ancient traits are bad, not like bad, but like kind of like the same as abilities, which I stand by. But you have the ancient trait Omega Barrage, which lets you attack twice, and this does work with tactical machines, which is pretty fun. I heard someone say it would be broken in a comment, which I don't quite agree with, but it's strong. It is fun. I think it's fun and worthwhile. I guess. Well, theoretically, it's fun. The deck it's played with is Vileplume, so that's not fun. But um, yeah, it allows you to attack twice, and then you have two attacks here, in addition to being able to use technical machines and whatever else. And you can build one for one colorless or for one colorless. You can shuffle a card between your discard into your deck. Side note, I feel like this card is almost ban worthy because Oranguru and Sableye are pretty similar to Bunnelby, and they're both banned. And I feel like Bunnelby is like arguably the same power level as those cards, but
Yeah.
whatever. Um, Rototiller though is really strong. Though it's not insane. I mean, it's pretty strong because you can do it twice. And Barrow's like, okay, you definitely will use that some. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, control cards ever. Because it is versatile, but it's versatile. It's not like it's quite strong, but it's versatile. You can like tech it into different things. It's just a cool card in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's too strong as a control card, right? I mean,
Yeah, I kind of agree.
between the quote, I'll just call it an ability. I know it's not, but that's what it is essentially. And then the two different attacks, some people sat down. How do we make a really oppressive control card to ruin people's days? And they came up with Bunnelby, right? And they succeeded if that was their goal, I
Yeah,
would say.
I think Bunnelby's less annoying than Badoo, but it's still annoying.
Yeah, I mean, part of the problem is that how we see it and expand it is like with these Vileplume decks that are just something you just don't want to play against, right? I think basically.
Yeah, I mean you can't play against because they they just like I don't lock you. Oh yeah, I forgot this is the one with the firefighter Pikachu, which is getting an upgrade with it's a new Ducklet I think. But anyways, yeah, you just like can't play any cards. Your opponent like sets up everything. You like can't attack, and it's not great.
Yeah. So, should we just close up with the energies last? You good with that?
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
So,
But I do want to. Sorry,
go ahead.
I want to mention Double Dragon Energy. We're not going to really talk about here. Double Dragon Energy is like super insane
Yeah.
in expanded. It's like probably one of the best cards, and that one I don't want it back. Right? It's just be like broken in Dragon Ball and like Raging Bull, and not fun. So I did want to mention that because we weren't going to talk about it. But if someone had questions, that's the answer.
Right, because we're going to talk
Right.
about these double energies. First, double colorless energy, which is the original one, provides two colorless energy to any Pokemon without any constraints. Then they get later on, which was really good. And is it too strong? I'll hear, I'll get your thoughts in a minute. Then they came up with twin energy. That's again two colorless energies, but that couldn't be attached to a V or GX Pokemon, which were the only rule box Pokemon at the time. Which it'd be better now if it was
Uh,
phrased.
Yeah. Oh,
Am I
sorry.
wrong?
It's the only. Well, it's only two prize Pokemon. There were not Radiants, but there were Radiants later. But then
Oh
there were
yeah.
Prism Star cards in the game when this came out. So
Okay.
that's a difference. Again, it could just be. Well, I imagine I'll say it could be changed to box.
Yeah, you're right. It was only multi-prize Pokemon. So, in a sense, if you attached it to, yeah, a Prism Star or the Radiant, maybe that's okay. But then it gets really awkward wording. So they took double colors, they nerfed it with twin energy significantly, but I think it was fair because it helped out the single prize decks. And helping out single prize decks is always, I think, important because they always are struggling. So this gave the single prize deck something that the multi prize decks didn't have. And then we all know double turbo energy because that recently rotated, right? Provided two colorless energies, just like double
This was a
colorless.
little longer ago, but wait, no, it
Yeah.
wasn't. What am I saying?
Yeah,
I got that.
okay.
Yeah, I got confused.
That's all right. So, but you did 20 less damage, right? So which is a small nerf, but I think it was a good. It felt fair in the format, right? I think turbo felt fair, and I think they did a nice job with it. I like having a double energy. I think it just allows options. I wish there was when we have the Team Rockets energy that provides two, but it's nice having just a general utility double colorless energy of some type. Again, a nerfed form of some type, but I like it in format. I got to say I miss it.
Yeah, I think notably the Pokemon was paired with were weaker. I don't know, maybe not weaker, but like didn't utilize it as well as some of the Pokemon that use double colors. I mean, double colors has been in the game. I think it's been in and out of the game. I'm not sure. Yeah, it has been, but it has been there since base set. And it's been really good. I think it's
Yeah.
regarded. It's probably one of the best cards ever, like based on longevity, because it's been reprinted so many times and is like super strong. And some of the cards it's been paired with are kind of absurd. I will say Double Turbo and Double Colorless both kind of broken with Mew VMAX, or
Ye-
I don't know, it's actually kind of broken, but in general, but
Yeah.
that's kind of crazy. Zoroark GX, right, an all-time great card. Mewtwo EX, an all-time great card. Just going through here, I mentioned there's some other thing. Oh, Night March, and all time, maybe not all time great deck, very strong deck. Also, there was Seismitoad EX, borderline broken card, certainly all time great card. And there's a lot of things that were kind of broken that Double Colorless was paired with. Unlike Double Turbo, which you look at, it's like Lugia really strong, but like Double Turbo's not insane there. Um, Cloth, Trapagos. I mean, these are strong Pokemon, but like they're not like all-time greats. Again, UV Max, and I'd say that gets a little questionable. There's a bunch of walls, which are kind of annoying, but they're not like insanely broken. And Arceus V Star, which is a strong card. I wouldn't say all-time great card, but a strong card. But that was like the intended Pokemon, and it felt strong, but felt okay. And then Twin Energy was like kind of bad, unfortunately. It was a little situational. Um, because the Pokemon just didn't work so well with it. I'm looking through most of its Regis, some control stuff, Lugia, and Radiant Charizard, which is like that's pretty situational, or it would be using that. I got Zoroark, you got Hariyama, and Mad Party.
Right. Mad
So
Party.
like I think,
You can
yeah,
play with Durant too, right? If you want a Durant Mill.
yeah,
But
it's so strong.
yeah, well, but I think an energy that lets it for decks at that level function is good though. That's why I think
Yeah,
Twin Energy I think was probably good for the game all in all, right? I
I
think.
agree. Yeah.
So something I would like to see something come. I would like to see some double colors energy, a nerfed version come back again because I think it's good for the game. And if you look at the list of decks that use double colors, it like goes on forever because it was around a lot and it was just insanely good as well. So too strong. They've done a good job nerfing it, I think, and I hope they come back with something once again.
Yeah, I'm just like looking through. You got like some of the older like Garchomp Sea Level X, super strong. You got it with Gardevoir, again, all time great card. Like, it's been paired with so many cards. They're kind of broken. Maybe it's skewing my perception of it. Maybe it's like not this like big problem card. But yeah, Double Turbo though. Also, it's not that much of a nerf, to be honest. As I said, I think it's mostly just
No,
the cards around it are weaker. But they need to kind of if this card's in the game, you need to design every card in the game with this in mind, which is like a little problematic at times. I mean, like it causes certain things to happen, right? I mean, it means that Pokemon just needs to be careful of their designs, and that can be fine. It can be a little annoying for them and for what ends up coming out of it. Like for example, you take a deck like Terra Box or Joltik Box or like Ho Arm Rouge or something, where specifically Ho Arm Rouge, where you're doing like mostly one type of energy with like Luminous Energy, and then those are the same cards that kind of work well with this, and then they're just not like they're not super strong. Ho Arm Rouge is not a super strong deck because the Pokemon you're pairing with it are like okay, but they're not insane. Um, so you get like weird things like that. But I mean, I do kind of agree. I think Twin Energy getting reprinted again, like changed to rule box would be cool.
yeah, Twin Energy would certainly be fair. Because I think it's I don't think it causes a huge upheaval in things. Right, the 20 less damage on double colors wasn't a huge nerf, so a lot of it was the Pokemon. And I think, like you said, double colors was around like forever. It felt like. So it had so many strong Pokemon it was paired with over the years. So therefore, it kind of makes double colors seem so great. But part of it was it just had great Pokemon many times.
Yeah. Oh, I feel this was a card we didn't talk about, which I'll mention quickly. I was thinking
Okay.
of Twin, and that is Scoop Up Nat, which we could like mention with Shame and the X. It's kind of
Yeah.
broken with those, but if we got changed to rule box, which it's like Turos, but like an item. And we'll say it's only rule box, and then I think it would be okay. It'd be kind of
Yeah.
fun. Ultimately, it's like kind of problematic and not for today's video. We don't have time to dive into it, but it is kind of cool. Wanted to mention it.
Yeah, it's a card I enjoyed playing back when it was in standard format, and then it worked the way it was supposed to. But even back then, I guess what this kind of made Shaman get banned, right? Is that correct?
Yeah,
Or
I'm pretty sure, but now Shaman's banned and Scoopin is also banned. So
yeah,
yeah, and also it got Scoopin got banned because of Iron Valiant EX, which you could just like win turn one,
yeah,
like kind of. It was very strong turn one. But yeah, regardless, I didn't want to mention that. But
yeah.
what we learned is that I like cards that are super crazy. Which I think everyone kind of knows. I like silly stuff. But yeah, I think expand is kind of fun. It's not really explored very much, but it has some cool stuff at least to talk about. I don't know if it's as fun to play. But there are some cards that we might see back, or we'll see back. I mean, we are going to see back some of them in a similar form, but not the same form. Which Pokemon is keeping track and making sure they're nerfing the cards. But we hope you enjoyed the episode. Consider liking and subscribing to the videos in our channels at YouTube on the channel Uncommon Fossil and the channel 10 Types. And you can also check us out on podcasting platforms. But we hope you enjoyed. And as always, we're excited to see you in the next episode.
Take care.